attacks at the Tema shipping yard following Joy News' latest expose, Frozen Tax.
You go to school with people, they copied during exams, they didn't know anything. You come because they are related to the board chairman. They go for interview and they are promoted. And you did well. You have not gotten your promotion.
Tonight we have exclusive details of influence peddling emerging yet again and how the country is being fleeced at various spots across the country. And top stories brought to you by Vodafone. Further together, I am Blessed Sogah. And tonight, the Economic and Organized Crime Office, YOCO, is on the heels of some companies who allegedly evaded tax at the Tema shipyard. This YOCO action comes on the back of a Joy News expose, Frozen Tax, which showed frozen companies who falsified their contents, the contents of their containers, which leads to the underpayment of taxes to the tune of some 4.6 million Ghana cedis. In this investigative piece by Joy News' Latif Idris Bamba, some containers full of chicken were declared to be containing sardinella fish to underpay their due to the state.
You go to school with people, they copied during exams, they didn't know anything. You come because they are related to the board chairman. They go for interview and they are promoted. And you did well. You have not gotten your promotion.
Workers' Union of the Ghana Revenue Authority on the 24th of July 2019 venting their unhappiness with the political interference in their work, which they say is contributing to the revenue shortfalls in the country.
The same people who came in through political appointments have their children as clearing agents who are using exemptions to clear goods. Is that not conflict of interest? Tell me. And as officers, the policies that you brought, I mean, you don't expect me to import things and clear for government to get revenue.
How many days must you advertise? Because that might not have passed through this area.
The accusation by the staff of the Ghana Revenue Authority struck a chord with me. So on August 1, 2019, in a sting operation after the launch of Operation Collect, Name and Shame, a team from the Customs Staff Association and 2 other labor unions stormed the premises of La Bianca Company Limited to examine contents declared in the name of Ajax Company Limited and Whitestone Frozen Foods Limited. The objective was to verify the contents of 72 40-footer containers at their premises, following a tip-off that the companies involved have given false information to customs officials.
No, please, can you just come and put it here? Yes. No, this is full chicken.
Full chicken.
That's a full chicken.
Whole chicken.
Whole hen.
After hours of search, the team found out that the frozen food companies have concealed boxes of full chicken instead of sardinella fish they had stated on their declaration forms. On 30th July 2019, one of the frozen food companies, Ajax Company Limited, gave misleading information about the content of some 20 40-footer containers. In 2 separate shipments made on 26 July 2019 with varying declaration numbers, Ajax Company Limited paid a duty of 168,731 cedis 68 pesos and 166,731 cedis 68 pesos, totaling 335,463 cedis 36 pesos, By virtue of misclassification of content of the containers, Ajax Company Limited ended up underpaying a tax amount of 377,232 cedis, 2 pesos, which should have gone to the state. Whitestone Frozen Foods Limited also declared to customs authorities as sardinella fish instead of chicken, contents of at least 540-foot containers with varying declaration numbers, heavily protected by armed police officers. Documents cited by Joy News shows that a container with commodity code 03035300 and 03035400 with varying declaration numbers paid a duty totaling 851,102 cedis, 5 pesos, underpaying a tax amount of 807,915 cedis, 12 pesos, which should have gone to the state. 19,834 cedis, 18 pesos, instead of 2,204,174 cedis, 32 pesos. So in just these shipments, the two companies put together defaulted up to the tune of 1,185,147 cedis, 32 pesos. In the heat of the moment during one of the days of the investigations at the Tema Fishing Harbour, my cover was blown at the premises of La Bianca Company Limited by armed officers of the Ghana Police Service who were providing security there. Together with an associate of La Bianca Company Limited, they cursed and threatened to assault me. Armed officers from the Customs Staff Association quickly shielded me and escorted me to a nearby vehicle to prevent what would have been a brutal assault.
It is nonsense.
The associate of Whitestone Company Limited, who led the threat and verbal abuse at me, ended up confessing to the crime of misdescribing content of the containers and threatened to expose another importer who he alleged is also evading tax.
I swear to God, we're going to bring him down as well. Why is he? We also have it. Go and investigate that guy who is giving you bad information. He's also running a coastal. Conflict of interest. You won't sit down for this. And now I'm catching the national security. Now you have to tell you from DRE. And somebody is also defending you from DRE. You think we're going to sit there for this to happen? They are all Ghanaians. Who sit there for somebody to...
After months of investigations, Joy News uncovered that by virtue of misdescription of content of containers, the companies involved underpaid 4.6 million Ghana cedis. Following the revelation, Joy News confronted a representative of Ajax Company Limited with documentary evidence to inquire why the company gave misleading information to the state. His explanation was that the shipping company is the one that committed the error by deploying containers with content other than what they had purchased.
We be able to ship us, able to explain how we came to misdescribe the product. Then also told me that we are no longer in business until we had explanation. As we sit here, we cannot tell how they could possibly describe a whole container meal. Describe a whole container meal as something else.
Meanwhile, attempts to get a response from Whitestone Frozen Food Limited have proved futile. Months of attempts to get a top hierarchy at the Ghana Revenue Authority to comment on the findings of this investigation has so far not yielded the desired result. A junior rank officer at Customs who spoke with me on the condition of anonymity said,
"Persons with political backing are doing it. I mean, deliberately misdescribing content on their containers, and they are doing so with brazen impunity. The difficulty with most of us is how the law is applied. Perpetrators are allowed to walk after paying the difference when they are caught. That, for me and most of my colleagues, is not deterrent enough because many of them get away with it.
The Customs Act of 2015 is however clear about what should happen to a person who fall foul to the provisions. A person who, quote, furnishes or causes to be furnished any information relating to any matter under this act which the person knows to be false, commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 2,500 penalty units and not more than 7,500 penalty units, and any goods in respect of which the act was committed is liable to forfeiture to the state. Section 2 of the Customs Act 2015 also states that where the full amount of duties payable under Section 1 is not paid, quote, the person in contravention shall incur a penalty of not more than 300% of the amount not paid in addition to forfeiture of the goods, where applicable. And B, the person is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not more than 200% of the value of goods in question, or to a term of imprisonment of not more than 5 years, or to both. Portions of this provision were triggered when, after investigations, customs officials presented documents and evidence of misdescription to the companies. There was, however, no evidence of forfeiture of the goods. According to customs officials, leakages like the one uncovered in these investigations are among the drivers of the country's failure to generate enough revenue at the ports, making government's ambitious Ghana Beyond Aid agenda ever Herculean.
No, this is full chicken. This is full chicken. Whole chicken. Whole hand.
Well, so very shocking details in that investigative piece by journalist Latif Idris Bamba. He's joining us in studio because tonight there's a lot of reaction to this. Yoko is beginning to act on some of the findings, but let's hear from the man at the center of this in terms of bringing out the very details that you heard from the story there. Latif, thanks for joining us on Top Story. So first of all, give us the backstory to the investigations and how hard was it really finding out all of these details?
Okay, so before we get to the hard part of it, I was invited to a deba by the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority somewhere in 2019. And at the deba, a lot of people spoke. But one of the speakers caught my attention. And if you hear in the documentary, the first woman who spoke, she was very passionate, very pained. And she made a point that the politicians always blame the customs officials for not raising enough money for the country's developmental agenda and projects. But these same politicians are the one hurting them at the port, making their work difficult and unable to realize the desired revenue for the state. And she was so angry and pained. And so after speaking, I contacted her and I said, I'm really interested in the details of the general statement that you've made. So we decided that we are going to take it up. And that is exactly what birthed this whole investigation.
And we must point out that all of the issues that have come up here is beginning to gain some attention in terms of what the authorities intend to do. But let's first of all talk about the systems that were put in place as of 2019 when you were carrying out this very investigation. The paperless port system was one of the systems touted by the Vice President then as part of the solution to port corruption. What's your assessment of it at the time you were carrying out this investigation?
Yes, so paperless port system, good initiative. The policy is meant to cut down on corruption at the ports. We reported some successes in that regard, but politicians are now taking advantage of the paperless system. So because it's paperless, the understanding of the port is that now we do not have physical customs officials coming in to interrogate issues, to inspect containers, to force open containers.
And that technology will be used.
Exactly. So that, but the technology, what the technology wouldn't tell you is whether or not the content in there as declared on the declaration form is indeed fish or is a chicken wing or full chicken or chicken thigh. It wouldn't tell you.
Right.
It will only tell you that that is it. But if you don't open it, you wouldn't find exactly what is in there. So the politicians, I mean, if I say politicians, I'm not being fair. Some of the politicians are taking undue advantage. So that because we say it's paperless, we declare that it is Sardiniana fish, but it isn't. It is rather full chicken. Now, because it's paperless, once you are a customs official and you try to go and open it, they tell you no.
Right.
We've introduced
We've
a
done the
paperless system.
declaration
So why
already.
do you still want to come in with the human face-to-face contact, which has been eliminated to cut down on corruption? That is how they managed to put a lot of customs officials from opening containers to ascertain the content.
So
they
in fact, the technology is beginning to bring about a whole new challenge which needs to be dealt with. But in this as well, we must point out that there's this story about the shiny suitcase, which a lot of people did not have the opportunity to hear of in that report.
Exactly. So during one of the days of this piece took us a lot of months to come out with the figures. And before I go to the shiny suitcase, let me also talk about the fact that a lot of companies were involved in this whole operation. You realize that the Ajax and Whitestone bits gave us an amount of money.
Right.
But a chunk of it also came from other operatives at the ports. And so this involved a lot of companies at the ports. It tells you that this whole misdescription of containers is widespread. Now let's get into the shiny suitcase bit. One of the days of the investigations, we got to the ports and we were about opening some of the containers at the shipping yard. Then we were almost at the brink of opening. Then someone came in with a nicely pressed suit and a shiny suitcase, and he came and pulled some of the leaders of the team aside. Now after 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes of discussion, they came back and they said, today's operation has to end.
But we have no idea, we must state, about the
Exactly what they discussed
and what the content of that discussion is.
But
anyway,
it was one of the experiences we had during
this is just the
investigation.
beginning of the issues. A lot more has been unfolding out of that investigative piece. Of course, you can also watch a playback of it on all of our social media platforms. But Yoko is beginning to act fast on the matter. Kweku Asante, my colleague in the Joy newsroom, joins us with details. He's also parliamentary correspondent, so watching keenly the reactions coming through. But first of all, Kweku, let's start off with what Yoko is saying.
So, Blessed, we know that Yoko officials have officially launched investigations into these issues as were raised in this expose by Joy News Latif Idrisu. What our sources tell us is that the companies will now be required, the companies who were cited in this investigation will be required to submit responses on these allegations and also answer for infractions which will be detected by Yoko investigators on the documentations and other materials they have obtained. Ultimately, Yoko will be seeking to recover every pesewa lost to the state from these individuals and companies involved in this falsification of import items. What we can also say is that Yoko will be looking to ensure that prosecutions happen.
Do we have clear timelines on that?
So Yoko have been very, very, they do not want to give timelines for now, but what they say is that this is an issue they are looking very much at.
And another stark revelation we're also getting is that one of the companies involved in all of these investigations is also subject to an already pending case at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So it gives you a sense of how chronic the situation is. Let me bring in at this point the Importers and Exporters Association and its Executive Secretary, Samson Asake Wingobet, is joining us. Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed is also a member of the Public Accounts Committee. Adam Senano is obviously a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. I'll start off with you, Mr. Awingobet, because you are the industry players. Are you surprised about some of the findings that we're getting through this investigative piece?
Well, good evening, good evening to your listeners, and of course, as an institution that advocates for.
First of all, Mr. Wingobich, you'd have to turn down the volume on your radio set so we can get the point you're making.
I'm not on radio. Is there any feedback?
Oh, yes, we're getting some feedback, but you can make the point then.
Okay. So is it okay now? Is it okay now?
Yes. Okay. So what I'll do now is to give you the opportunity to just, of course, distance yourself from the set which you're close to. Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed is also a member of the Public Accounts Committee. We started this conversation way back, and your position was simple, that the anti-corruption agencies would have to act fast and expand the scope of investigations in terms of rot at the port. Given what Joy News has uncovered, would you say now is the time for that to happen?
Well, good evening, Charlie. First and foremost, I don't believe Yoko can do a fair, independent work in this matter. I really don't have any confidence in this leadership of Yoko and Yoko for doing an independent work on it. I think the best solution to investigate this matter is the Office of the Special Prosecutor. More so, when one of the companies is already being investigated by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. That's my first comment. Second, the paperless system was never introduced by Dr. Baumia or this government. And I feel strongly about this issue. And I say this because the reason why we are having these challenges is what they did to the same implementation which the NDC government under President Mahama started. We had a Ghanaian company. That company was West Blue. I had the privileged opportunity to have worked on the International Trade Facilitation Bill, and I had the privileged opportunity to have moved a motion for the passage of the International Trade Facilitation Law in Parliament, which envisaged of bringing all the state institutions on one system, such that people do not spend longer time, sometimes weeks or months, to have their goods cleared for the purposes of importation or exportation. And before we did that, a committee was set at the Ministry of Trade. And I was asked to chair that committee. And I remember the former Deputy Minister for Trade, Honorable Carlos Ahenkra. He was then the leader and the representative of the freight forwarders. He was fully represented. When we passed this and got the Ghanaian company to do this work, and the Ghanaian company had finished bringing all the state institutions on the system, except one or two state institutions.
Right.
When this government came, what they did, they forced this company to sell the company to Arabs from Dubai for them to engage in the outright robbery that they engaged in. You listen to one of the people in your investigation who said that, we are not the only company that is engaged in this. There is another company that is engaged in it. It's a clear case of two thieves fighting over a stolen goat that belongs to the chief priest. And I think that the Special Prosecutor Office can do an excellent work in this. If they never sacked or forced that woman to sell that company to the Arabs from Dubai, the very people they brought, I don't see how they could have had the opportunity to engage in the things they engage in, for which reason we are going through these challenges. Are you then surprised why government finds it very difficult to meet its revenue target? But you see, there is so much to this than what you have uncovered. A classical example has to do with the bonded warehousing system. We had done an independent work and we left a report to this Minister for Trade and this government that the bonded warehousing system that we operated in Ghana was just too much. And therefore, there was the need for it to be streamlined. As I talk to you, Accra alone can boast of almost 1,000 bonded warehouses. And isn't it a means by which the state is denied the needed resources that they should get? Because you bring in the goods, you don't pay the needed import duties, you pay as and when the goods are taken out of the bonded warehouse. And we realized that they could keep foods that were perishable, and they'll tell you that it's been kept in the bonded warehouse for 1 year, 2 years. So I'm saying that the problems we are facing today are problems that are created by the very people who are in place. And frankly speaking, let me conclude on this. In a serious democracy, this Minister for Finance should not continue being there. The Minister for Ghana Post and Harbour should not be there. In fact, the Minister for Transportation, because some of this importation, you should have extended your investigation to the airport, should not be there. Because the state cannot deny or feign innocence. Because if you listen to the anger of the woman at the program that was held in 2019, why? Where were the other security agencies?
And in fact, that's why I'm surprised you're not having a lot of confidence in, for instance, Yoko, clothed with the power to deal with some of these issues. I come back to you, Mutala, on this. Samson and Sakia Wingobit is Executive Secretary for the Importers and Exporters Association. Samson, earlier you were making the point. I was asking you as to whether or not you were surprised about some of the findings.
Yes, thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers and listeners, and good evening to my big brother, the Honorable Mutala, and other colleagues. Let me say that as an association, as a body that see to advocacy for the benefit of and the interest of business community in this country, we are, of course, not happy for what has happened in the month of August till today, as we speak, in the month of September. The report, the issues that has come emanating from the port. We should not be happy, and we are not happy, of course. I am surprised. Of course, I think I listened to you yesterday, and briefly we had a chat. It is not about, let my colleague from Honorable Mutala understand that it is not about the system. It is about the system. The current system is very robust. And I don't think the system is the one that is giving this opportunity that we are getting here.
In fact, there are documents, even from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, pointing otherwise. So if you're saying the system is robust, that will be questioned.
Yes, the system, we cannot put a blame on the system. That's the ICOM system. In fact, they are providing systems to the customs to use to do their work. One will have to submit an importer. If you bring in your cargo, as I was telling you yesterday, you have to submit all the documentation necessary for the goods to customs through the BOE. That is through the ICOM system. Now, the officers in the CTSB are the people who will now then do the classification and valuation and come out with a tax bill for you to pay the duty. Now, it is garbage in, garbage out. What the secretary at the freight forwarding company enter in the system is exactly what the customs are going to use, unless otherwise the customs is taking other intelligence and to say that, look, things are with this kind of details or particulars.
So I guess you're making the point. You're making the point then that there's a problem somewhere.
No, so that's what I'm taking you through the system, how it works. So if it is the thing is drink and the person say it is water, the custom officer at the CTSB will have to work on what the person sent to him and come out with a violation. And that is why it doesn't end there. If you go and pay the duty and you are not going to take your cargo from the port, there are other officers, okay, be it the examination officer, be it the preventive officers. And then apart from that, we have the national security, we have the BNI, okay. Then we even have the narcotic control board at the port. Now, a container, any container that leaves in the port from the ship to the terminal, or from the MPS terminal to GPJ, or from GPJ to Golden Jubilee, or to River Yard, it has to scan.
Okay, you're failing. We'll get because of time. We don't have all of the time. So this is what I sense. Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Just hold on for me. What I sense is that you believe that the system is robust, but you were just pointing out one of the shortfalls, which perhaps you may not have addressed your mind to. The withdrawal, for instance, of national security personnel at the ports. That decision was taken by the National Security Ministry some months back. It tells you that even if the computerized system goes through, you may not have some intermediaries following up and making sure that the declaration is indeed valid.
No,
you see the problem there?
Apart from the national security that was withdrawn, the BNIs are there. Now the NIB is there. The UCO, the NACOP are there. The custom and custom preventives are there.
But there is a problem of intelligence, for instance, missing. So once the declaration goes through, you make us scot-free.
No, hold on. That's why I said from the system, when you send in, garbage out, the custom officer at the CTSB is working on what I submit to them. But at the point of taking the cargo out of the port, I'm not telling the process that the cargo has to go through scan.
But the national security is key to that. All of the personnel, have been taken out from there. So It's a challenge. You
So
agree?
you have to find out what went, what was the reason why the national security was removed from the port. I think I just want to establish the fact that the system is very robust. The system is
not
perfect.
robust.
Apart from that, you go to
Anyway,
scanning, and I'm telling at where one can identify that okay, this cargo, because you have talked about the commodity was wholly chicken, that's full chicken, but it was declared as fish. Is that not it? That's what.
Yes,
that was the
but
report.
once there's no physical contact, someone sitting behind the computers will not be able to tell, and that's why you need the national security. But anyway, because we don't have time.
No, second.
Yes,
that's why.
Okay, do that for me.
That's
Just do that for me.
The officer will have to open the container. That's why if the container is at preventive, they can open and side. They can drop the boxes and open. It happens every day.
Okay, let's talk about the way forward. Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, let me start off with you. I'll give you a minute and a minute to Samson Asaki Awingobit, so we wrap up.
Well, when we brought in the West Blue, and I remember when the West Blue came, I insisted as a deputy minister in charge of trade that we're not going to work with them until we see what they have been able to do. I led the team to Nigeria because she had done some work in Nigeria. When I led the team to Nigeria, we went to Abuja, we went to Lagos, we interacted with custom officers, freight forwarders, importers, and exporters. And the figures available indicated that with the completion of the work they did in Nigeria, their revenue mobilization quadrupled. So we decided that based on the evidence we had in Nigeria, let's give them the opportunity to do it. And go and check. Between 2016, late part of 2016, when we started the system, up to 2017, the customs and the Ghana Revenue Authority generated a lot of money. But the problem we have today is because this woman, and I'm not interested in whether the woman, but the company was forced out. They had to sell the company to Arabs who were brought by assigns of this government. They sold the companies to them so they could have the opportunity to do the things they are doing. Yes, the system is supposed to be robust.
Okay, so I'm looking for the solution now.
Did that with an agenda.
So I'm looking for the solution now, briefly.
Well, first and foremost, you don't need to have those entities operating. That is national security, BNI, if the system is allowed to work and work effectively. You don't need to have them.
Right.
In fact, the reason why the trade facilitation was to get all those people out so that you will not have these delays.
All right, then. Samson Asakia Wingobit, your final thoughts?
I just want to assure the population that we have no problem so far as STEM is working. ICOP is working at the port. In terms of revenue generating, it is custom has been out. In terms of lesser days of clearing the cargo within 3 to 4 hours or a day, you can clear cargo at the port. And I can tell you that is why the custom has the scanning document images. So that after some days, custom can even zoom to the company to say, look, what you cleared and said it was fish. The images we had after you gone show that it is fish, it is chicken, but not fish. And based on that, custom can do a post auditing, and then if there's any shortfall, as you people talk about 4.something million Ghana cedis, custom will definitely collect it.
And the jury, obviously, is out there. We'll wait to see what the fallout of the Yoko investigations will be, but I'm grateful that Samson Asakia Wingobit, Executive Secretary for the Importers and Exporters Association, Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed is a Member of Parliament and also serves on the Public Accounts Committee, also a former Deputy Trades Minister.